Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Activity Strong webinar. My name is Megan McMahon, and I am the Director of Strategic Development here at Link Senior. For today's webinar event, we will be providing you with one free NAB, NCAP, NCCDP, NCTRC, and NZ-SRDT CEU credit. To be eligible for the CEU credits today, you do need to remain on this webinar for the full hour. And at the end of the webinar, I will provide the required post-webinar CEU survey evaluation link in the webinar room chat box. And I will also send that link to you by email this afternoon. So please be sure to check your spam folder in case it lands there. The survey must be completed by midnight Eastern time this Thursday. If you have any questions, please email us at webinars@linksenior.com. And certificates will be issued by email before the end of the day on Friday, April 21st this week. Today's webinar, as you know, is about why old people are cool. And we are very happy to have Gwenyth Johnson, CEO of Second Wind Dreams, as our featured speaker. Our team believes in a world where people of all ages are respected and valued, and that is why we started our Old People Are Cool initiative back in 2017. And 3 years ago, we did create the Activity Strong initiative to acknowledge, educate, and empower each of you. Thank you to Activity Connection, the National Association of Activity Professionals, and the National Certification Council of Activity Professionals for being our Activity Strong partners. We are very excited to be working with so many forward-thinking communities across the United States and Canada, and we look forward to welcoming more of you on board in the weeks ahead. As many of you know, our Link Senior technology focuses on engagement, connection, and the celebration of individuality. We are really working to enhance life in senior living communities by building simple and evidence-based software to bring person-centered experiences to older adults and their care partners. And we're really proud that we have research that shows that our technology not only increases cognitive functioning, but also social engagement for residents. And it also decreases aggression and antipsychotic medication use. So here's a look at today's agenda today. We're going to have the Q&A box open in the webinar room chat today. So if you have questions for Gwenyth, please put your questions in the Q&A box and I will surface those throughout the presentation to her. And here are a look at the objectives for today. If you need continuing education credits, these will be important for you to keep in mind when you do the post-evaluation survey link at the end of today's event. And without further ado, I am so very excited to welcome Gwenyth Johnson today. We have been waiting for quite some time to have Gwenyth as a featured speaker on our webinar series, so I'm very happy that the day is finally here. So with that, Gwenyth, I am going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to you.
Thank you so much. Let me share my screen. There we are. Well, thank you all for participating today, and please pose your questions as we go. Megan will be sharing those with me so that we can address them in real time. I'm Gwenyth Johnson. I am the CEO at Second Wind Dreams. We are an organization that is dedicated to changing the perception of aging. And we do that through a number of different ways. One is through the fulfillment of dreams for older adults living in long-term care. And then the other is through offerings of educational programs, such as our flagship program, which is a sensitivity training, the Virtual Dementia Tour. Our website is posted there on this slide. Please go and check out some of the things that we offer. So just to kind of walk you through what we'll be covering today, current perceptions of aging, aging stereotypes, what does natural aging look like? How do we prepare for positive aging? ageism and its impact on us as we age and on older adults today? What are positive images of aging, ageism in the workplace, and what we can all do to change the perception of aging and show that old people really are cool? So let's start with the general perception of aging right now. In the US, it is not a positive impact or perception. We see gender differences. We see that older women tend to have greater scrutiny on appearance. The graying of females in our country is not as respected as the graying of males. We see that he looks dignified with the gray at his temples, as opposed to the traditional look that women continue to dye their hair. Although we are seeing that change, and that's one of the positive impacts that came out of the pandemic. Many women decided not to, because they couldn't go to the hairdresser, continue some of those things. And we are seeing Facebook groups that are dedicated to graying, which is a huge step. Neurologically, there are differences in aging. Women tend to go through the aging process with more of a stable neurological state. Men tend to have neurological issues that are impacted sooner. Emotional impacts of aging, men tend to not have as many of those, whereas women tend to fall into depression more often. So there are some things that we see just in gender differences. Many of them are cultural perceptions that change. We tend to see people looking at older adults as economically vulnerable, which isn't necessarily the case. Many older adults work well into later years, as you will see going through this. We believe that with aging becomes diminished capacity to make decisions for ourselves. There's something called the dignity of choice, and we all make bad decisions from time to time. And as an adult, whether or not the word older is before that, we all have the right of dignity of choice. Someone who is 25 years old and has type 2 diabetes and continues to eat a Twinkie every day at lunch, just a random example, probably isn't going to be institutionalized or put under guardianship. Whereas decisions that are similar to that in older adults may have their rights taken away from them. Dignity of choice is something that we all deserve. We are seeing a political and cultural shift from the theme of respect for wisdom, experience, to a respect and almost a lust for youthful image. And while that continues, it's a very difficult thing for aging and to prevent ageism. Aging stereotypes. So I know we all look at these. Older adults, they forget things. They have memory loss. There may be mental incompetence. They're not able to drive. Illness and disability are just part of the aging process. Older adults don't have sex anymore. Older adults are lonely. They're a burden. They can't pay their bills. They're not needed. They need to be managed. None of these have to be true. Memory loss and forgetfulness is not a natural part of aging. Now, it may be more difficult to call up a thought. I like to use the linen closet analogy. When you first go out into the world, you have a couple of sets of sheets and a couple of sets of towels. As life continues, that linen closet fills up. And as it does, it's harder to find that first set of sheets, the first set of towels. So think about that as your brain and all the things that are in there. It may take you a little longer to call up an item that you're thinking of. Mental incompetence is not part of aging. Changes to our brain happen, and we'll talk a little bit about dementia as we move forward, but it is not the truth. It is not a reasonable image of aging. Older adults are unable to drive. Not the case. An older adult who has maintained response time, who continues to drive well, has good vision, all of those things, they can continue to drive. It depends on their abilities. And there are classes through AARP and other organizations like that to ensure that you've got the best ability to drive as we're aging. Illness and disability do not have to be a part of aging. Our bodies do change, and we'll continue to discuss this as we go, but healthy lifestyles, we can implement things that keep us as functional and going as long as we can. And you'll see that with some of the wonderful images of older adults that we have for later in the presentation. Older adults are not sexually inactive. If someone has had a healthy sex drive their whole life, they will continue to have this as they age. It is not inappropriate. It's part of life. It is difficult for us to think about our parents and our grandparents as sexual human beings, but they're human beings before they were our parents and grandparents. Loneliness does not have to be the case. Creating communities that offer access to multi-generational groups is a key to keeping older adults as well as the community engaged with one another. No one has to be a burden. We all can have a purpose in society, and it really behooves all of us to ensure that there are ways for us at all points in our life to be a part of aging, to be a part of our communities and a part of society. Ability to pay bills doesn't have anything to do with aging. There are fluctuations in financial ability throughout life. Planning helps, but there are often disasters that happen, stock market issues and things like that, but it is not an inevitability. Thinking that older adults are not needed is one of the worst stereotypes I've ever thought about. We are all needed, and there are so many things that our seniors, our older adults, and that could be me, depending on your age, or it could be someone older than me, but we all have something to contribute. Older adults need to be managed. That goes back to the dignity of choice. Someone who has maintained themselves, has eliminated disability and cognitive decline, all of those pieces help us to manage ourselves. Now, maybe we need to be a part of a group. All of us participate in different groups that help us manage ourselves. Is ageism really a big deal? Absolutely. Ageism happens throughout what we call older adulthood, depending on your perspective of that. It could be 50 to 80, it could be any number in there. 65% said that they were exposed to ageist messages. Ageism in interpersonal interactions, 45%. Internalized ageism, 36%. Part of what we do here at Second Wind is to help older adults think about themselves as individuals, as a viable part of the community, people with dreams and desires. And that's the case across the spectrum. Ageism has a huge impact. As we age, positive images of aging, positive attitudes of aging are important to our well-being. Research shows that health outcomes are much better for individuals who have a positive perception of aging and their own aging process. So this is critical. So what's true and false about aging? The body ages, we know this. It can slow. Bones tend to shrink in size and density. Our muscles, we might get a little bit shorter, and our muscles tend to lose strength. All of these can make us more prone to falls. But each of those things that I just mentioned, there are interventions that we can do. There are lifestyle management tools that we can use to mitigate some of that. And those pieces are not the only aspects of aging that matter. It is not a normal part of aging to be depressed and lonely. We do not have decreased need for sleep. We are able to learn new things throughout our lives. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. Exercise can be done throughout your life, and we can drive as long as we maintain all of the necessary functions. It's important that we think about each of these things because we tend to discount what aging really can bring to us. Our expectations about the process of aging are important as well. If we think, well, I'm going to slow, I'm going to fall, I can't do these things, I'm going to be alone, I don't have a purpose, then those things will come to fruition. Our own perception of our aging process is just as important as that of society. Our body might slow, but we can do things to keep it as healthy as possible. We can celebrate who we are throughout our lives, celebrate our attributes, and how we can contribute to a community. All of those pieces make a huge difference. And historically, we are the ones as we age that provide the history, the wisdom, the experience, expertise, and perspective that a younger generation may not have. In return, we can engage with the younger generation and learn the things that they are experts in. That cross-pollination is really important. So what is true about aging? With care and a healthy lifestyle, disease does not have to be part of aging. Healthy with conditions is the new norm. So yes, we will have changes, but I am healthy with conditions. I personally have had 2 hip replacements, and at 45 was walking with a cane, and now am dancing and hula hooping and participating in life in ways that I didn't think I would then. That changed things for me at the age of 45. Now, at 56, I see my aging process as something very different. I'm engaged, I have expectations of myself, and I've got fitness goals for the next 10 years for myself, and it'll go past that. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. That's very important to know. Here at Second Wind, we support people living with dementia by improving the education for those who care for individuals with dementia, but we do not in any way believe that it is a normal part of aging. It happens, and we need to provide the best care possible, but that shouldn't be an expectation. We can have healthy relationships across age groups. And frankly, it's important that we do. As younger people, it's important to have perspective. As a little girl, I spent a lot of time with elders, my godmother, and my next door neighbor, who was a retired geneticist. I spent a lot of time in his backyard picking grapes and playing under bushes, but I also learned a great deal from him. As we age too, it's important that we have friend groups of multiple ages, because we do tend to lose our peers as we move forward. And it's important to have multi-generational groups around us so that we don't find ourselves alone. The perspective is also brilliant from different age groups. Healthy relationships can be in your actual family or in a created family. So all of that is up to you and what you're looking for. We do tend to maintain our sex drive. It is a misconception that we are not able or interested in intimacy. And frequently we see a revitalization of sex drive in older years, particularly in women. So don't lose hope on that. Older adults can be purpose-driven members of society in the workforce. There is no age at which you must retire. I personally am planning for a retirement job. So when I'm done with this and the organization has replaced me, I will move on to something that I can do maybe from my home, but then I'm engaged and talking with people, and maybe through Zoom and things like this, that I continue to be a part of society. I continue to grow what I think I can contribute. Older adults actually make up the happiest age groups, the happy realists, they're called. And some of that comes from lived experiences, change in expectations, all of those pieces. But aging can be a fantastic journey. So how do we prepare for positive aging? Well, I've gone through here, and these are 8 dimensions or spheres of aging. We have intellectual, emotional, physical, social, occupational, financial, environmental, and spiritual. We'll talk just a little bit about each one, but this is an important thing as we are all aging, anyone who's living, to think about these things and how our future is going to look. So intellectual, stay curious. There is no point in life when we are done learning. And the more we participate in intellectual activities, the more we create new neural pathways. Now, this could be learning a new skill, it could be taking on a new job, it could be going back to school. Here in Georgia, there's a 62 program, and you can return and go to college at 62. Cannot wait to take advantage of that. There's a lot of things I would like to study that I didn't have an opportunity to. Emotional well-being or wellness. Understanding and respecting your feelings, your values, your attitudes, and feeling positive. Being who you are is a great thing at all ages, and understanding that about yourself can bolster your health and well-being immensely. Physical, just caring for your body now and throughout your life, no matter what age you are, and thinking about sleep, about nutrition, about physical activity. All of those pieces are so important to us being well and being well throughout our lives. Social is an important part of well-being, and it's important that we maintain relationships throughout our lives, being cared for and by others, intimate relationships. And again, that multi-generational relationship piece is very important. Each generation has something to teach the others, and the more we engage there, the more supportive society actually is as well. Occupational wellness. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to work for the rest of your life, but there are ways for all of us to contribute to society, to our neighborhood, to our family. Finding purpose and meaning in this world is very important to our well-being, and that never stops. So just remember that your unique gifts are needed. Financial wellness. Now, this is something that we really should be working on from the time that we start making money on, but it is never too late to start. Reaching out for help, making sure that you've got resources that you need. And if you don't have resources, reaching out to community resources that can help support you. Elder care locator, things like that can really help with a lot of that piece. Spiritual well-being, finding purpose and meaning in your life with or without an organized group. Now, this could be a religious group, it could be spiritual practices, but finding your reason for why you're here and why it's important that you're here. And finally, environmental. And this is something I don't think that we consider enough, although we have some marvelous organizations around the country who do. Understanding your needs and how the environment can impact them. So if you can't leave the house, are there friendly visits to come in? Do you live in a place that has zero-step entries? Is it a work-play live community with multi-generational opportunities? In the exterior environment, are there curb cuts so that someone who doesn't have the mobility as much as someone else can go on and off the sidewalk appropriately? Are the walk signs long enough at intersections to allow someone who moves more slowly to get across the intersection? All of those pieces we can help to plan, whether we're in government, whether we're in a community. We can speak up and talk about these opportunities and ensure that for those of us who are moving into that space, those of us who will be, and those of us who are there, have the supports that they need to successfully age. And there's a graphic of these dimensions of wellness, but think about that. This is a holistic view of how we maintain our health throughout life. And anyone who is living is aging. So this is a move towards positive aging. Positive views on aging. Believe it or not, older adults, seniors, depending on how you designate this group, 50 to 80, had very positive feelings about the aging process, more comfortable in being themselves, strong sense of purpose, feel more positive about aging, and think their lives are better than they thought it would be. Now, I'd like to pose a question to the audience. What is your position on aging? Are you looking forward to it? Are you enjoying it now? What would you like to do differently? If anyone has a response to any of those, I would love to open it up for conversation. Find it very hopeful that these are older adults who are being surveyed, and that there is such a strong sense of purpose and comfortability. That's not a word, but feeling more comfortable in yourself. Those are amazing pieces. Megan, any responses to the question?
Yeah, so we have a lot coming in on the webinar chat here, Gwenyth. I can read off some of them. Staying active. I am happy where I am at. I would like to be healthier, but I'm active. I love my gray long hair. Enjoying it and understanding life much better. I am loving life. I'll be 61 in a few weeks and continue to maintain a regular routine of running, eating healthy, making time for self-care and prioritizing family. I worry about more pain in my body as I age. However, I look forward to letting go of other worries. Keep
Okay.
on moving. Lots of different opinions across the board here in the chat. Thank you, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you. The one about pain and aging. There are things that we can do from gentle physical activity, restorative yoga, different things along those lines that can help us with preventing pain or managing pain. From a personal perspective, I was on, because of the arthritis, and which led to the 2 hip replacements, I was on a whole series of meds to manage that pain and ended up with some significant GI issues. So I've moved into some practices, both with my physician and some complementary practices to help mitigate the pain. So looking into things that would work for you. I've been doing cryotherapy. Now, I'm not professional in that realm, so it would be something that you would need to look into for yourself. However, there are options like that to help us manage pain. Stretching, hydration, the more you continue to move, even with pain, will prevent greater pain from happening. Working with your physician, working with a trainer, or with a health coach can be really valuable to you as you're working through those types of issues. What we need to not do is allow the pain to stop us, or the concern of pain to stop us from being active. It can change the types of activities that we do, but as soon as we stop moving, pain can increase, our functionality decreases, and that's an important piece to hang on to. There's so many types of activities out there to do. Everyone can find a physical activity that is enjoyable to them. Walking is a great way to move on a daily basis. It can be a place where you have conversations with someone that you don't necessarily get to have and move your body. Some of the latest research shows that building muscle as we age is critical to our well-being. So finding maybe a trainer who likes to work with adults, older adults, and moving towards that increased muscle and ability. And with the increased muscle comes an increased caloric burn. So that can help manage weight as well. There are so many different things that we can do to really help make the aging process as enjoyable as possible. And I find it amazingly enjoyable. The idea that I understand myself better than I ever have, and that I heard that in the chat as well. As we age, we get to a point where we're like, oh, I do know myself. And that started for me about 40. And then 50 was a great birthday. And I'm looking forward to 60 as well. It's just understanding yourself, appreciating yourself. And if you don't, find a way to appreciate yourself as much as possible. Those pieces make all the difference in the world. And then share yourself with the world as well. Each of us has something to offer, and that purpose piece is critical. I wanted to show some really positive images of aging. We have amazing older adults in this world, and they don't get enough shout outs, in my opinion. We've got 100, I think she's 102. Oh, nope. The latest cover of Vogue, she is 106 years old. Apo Wang Od is, I believe, how you say her name. She also goes by Maria Oge. And she is on the cover, and you can't see them very well, but if you look at the cover of Vogue this month, she is showing off her tattoos, and she has kept the tattoo tradition in the Philippines alive. It's a 1,000-year-old practice, and she is training others to continue that practice, and is the oldest cover model ever to grace Vogue. We have our beautiful athlete here in the middle of the page, and I don't have her name with me, but she started working out later in life than you would think for the bodybuilder that she's become, but she is an icon. Anyone who is on social media and looking at images of trainers, of athletes, she is there. We have a young lady there who is working in industry. We have a gentleman who is in his, I believe he's 79, and is now a fashion model, and it's pretty spectacular. We have images of older adults being physically active, engaging intergenerationally, and living their best lives. All of these pieces are images of who we can all be and how aging should be perceived. None of these people look to me as though they can't function or that they need additional supports. Now, they may have supports that they've set up, and that's part of how they're doing so well, but they're integral parts of society. We have older models now, and in my lifetime, the modeling industry has always been age focused. But if you look at some of the models that we're seeing today, we've got women in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s who are high fashion models and doing a beautiful job and changing what the image of aging is. So we do see a lot of ageism in the workplace. Older workers are considered anyone over 40. I found that a shocking number. I'm 56. I'll be 57 in about a month, 2 months. And I don't consider myself an older worker, but I am. And many of us are. It's important that the workplace understand that all of us have contributions to make. Now, it is also ageism if we disrespect the younger generations as well. They have a great deal to offer, but it takes all of us. We tend to see ageism in the workplace most commonly in IT, in media, and in manual industries. So in IT, the perception is that older adults don't understand technology, or that the latest technology is something they haven't trained in. But we don't know if someone has taken all of the certification courses until we look at that resume and really dig in. The media, much of that has to do with our lust for youthful appearances. Although some of that is changing with our long gray hair, and I really appreciated that comment from the group. And manual industries, just the idea that someone who's older is not capable, which is not true. We have to take each person as an individual. We do see older workers most prominently in management and professional jobs, in sales and office work, in service industries, in production and transport, and in our natural resources. But any job, any profession can be one that is appropriate for older adults. There are a great deal of benefits to having older workers in the workplace. They are skilled and experienced. They tend to stay in their jobs longer, and they take fewer days off generally. Now, these are generalizations. They tend to have a strong work ethic, and they retain business knowledge and networks from different parts of their lives. It can be an opportunity to tap into their networks and improve your business. There's a perceived technology gap, but we can overcome that. Training for someone who has the propensity to do technology, doesn't matter what age they are. It's that they're engaged intellectually and that they continue to grow. That's all of us. You could be a 25-year-old graduate from undergrad, and if you don't keep up with all that's going on in technology and updates to even something as simple as the Microsoft Office suite, you are no longer at the top of your game when it comes to technology. So it could be any of us. The best teams are multi-generational. And here's just one example of a worker who's 79, headstrong, stubborn, and brilliant. We need to look at the individual, not the age. We need to look at what they bring to the organization. Have the conversations during interviews that really allow people to showcase who they are and what they know. Simply looking at the number of jobs they had or when they graduated from college does not give you a picture of how they can benefit the organization. And we can lose a lot of great experience and some wonderful workers by not paying attention to these things. I wanted to show you some very positive images of older adults who are successfully employed and vibrant. So we have the gentleman in the bottom corner there on right above our logo. He is 102 years old and he works as a Walmart greeter, and he works an amazing number of hours. The other person I really wanted to draw your attention to is Betty Soshin, and she has been a park ranger for an incredible amount of time. She retired at the age of 100 years old. And I just wanted everyone to have these images of older adults in the workplace, because age doesn't mean you have to stop working. Social Security has an age, but currently we need to consider what our lives are going to look like after our typical work age has passed. How will we support ourselves? Will the systems be in place to continue to support us that we've had? And what is good for me or for you as far as employment goes? I have a feeling that I'm going to be a lifelong worker and a lifelong learner. It's how I engage, it's how I keep myself vibrant and part of society. These are decisions we can all make for ourselves as we're deciding who we want to be as older adults or in our next phase of older adulthood. From the group, what are your goals for work in later life?
So Marjorie says, I'm applying to work with elders. I am 67 with a degree in sociology. I worked with preschoolers in my former work. Keep working, then volunteer, work as long as I can, then volunteer, find a fun job, volunteer as a hospice chaplain, continue working with elders and having fun with them, continue working but less hours to find balance.
Yes, that balance is critical.
Become a master gardener or birder. Career number 3. Oh, there's so many plans here. Travel with grandkids. Travel.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Let's talk about the volunteerism, because we heard quite a bit of that. When it comes to having a purpose and contributing to society, you don't have to have a job where you have to go in and punch the clock. Volunteerism is a great way to remain engaged and to share all that you have to offer. So I really encourage people to consider that, particularly if they don't want to continue to punch the clock and go to the office or whatever that job is and it requires from you. There are not-for-profits, there are schools, there are senior centers, all kinds of places across the country and the world that we can volunteer for and really have a huge social impact and make changes. Travel is so important, and engaging with our families, particularly if we've been so busy we haven't had time to do that. So that might be your purpose. What does that mean for you as we age? Becoming involved in the faith community and fulfilling responsibilities there. All kinds of ways for us to remain involved, engaged, and vibrant as we live this life and age successfully. Working to employ older workers. So there are programs out there for individuals to get them back into the workforce if that's what they want. The CSEP, or the Senior Community Services Employment Program, is one way. It is funded through the Older Americans Act and Department of Labor, and is administered through different organizations across the country. AARP has some of those administrative abilities. I know here in Georgia, they are, at least in the city of Atlanta, they are a major one. these are opportunities to work with someone who maybe has limited experience but wants to gain experience. I had the pleasure of working with a CSEP participant who had worked in a factory most of her life. She had run the forklift and had decided that that was no longer really a viable opportunity for her for physical reasons. She worked with us. She learned multi-line phone systems. She learned Microsoft Office Suite, and actually went on to train on NCR and become a restaurant manager. And so it was a huge success, and upgraded her skills, helped us as we didn't have, it was a volunteer position with us, and so it was a marvelous exchange. So that's a great way to move forward. The Ohio Department of Aging, as I was preparing for this, I found that they had articles on how to market yourself, working as you age, and more. There are resources out there in every state from multiple organizations, and these are just a few. It's important that we're able to tap into these types of resources, get the training that we need, and move forward. Sometimes volunteerism can turn into a new career, and it may be that volunteering for a not-for-profit or some type of organization turns into a job offer, and could be the best fit for you. Just never know. So keeping your options open, staying connected, and talking with people is important to success for employment, volunteerism, and engagement. Now, how do we prepare for positive aging? If we are living, we are aging. So we need to prepare for positive aging. Participating in community planning with aging in mind. With the regional development centers in states, you can be a part of this. You can go to those community conversations and talk about the needs that you perceive as you age in your community. Be a part of planning for curb cuts and accessible public transit. There's so many ways for us to engage there and ensure that we have a voice in how we age and in how we can contribute to society and be engaged with them. Rethink your current beliefs about aging and older adults, because to someone, you're probably an older adult. Again, I don't think of myself as that, but my mother, who's going to be 85 this year, doesn't think of herself as an older adult either. So she talks about volunteering at the senior center and supporting older adults, and continues to work. So just by virtue of someone's age doesn't mean that you know anything about them. Doesn't mean that you know their capacity to work, to contribute to society, to engage with multiple generations. So we need to rethink those things. And this is on all of us. And we need to maintain relationships with as many ages of people as we can. Life is richer and ageism is difficult from this perspective. The more we know about younger people, the more they know about older people, the better things are, the better the communications are, and the more engaged all of us can be. I really love this slide and wanted to share it with you because what is an older adult? An older adult is a fashionista. An older adult is an Instagram sensation and social media influencer. Older adults are athletes, they're dancers, they are intellectuals, they are icons who've created the Marvel universe. Older adults are everything that anyone else is. And the perception that we're not, or that they are not, we all are not, is incorrect. For those of you out in the audience, is there someone who is particularly iconic as an older adult that you aspire to be like?
Someone says Cher. Someone says my
Share
mom, Betty
my
White,
mom.
Dolly
Yeah, Betty
Parton.
White.
Oh, another one says my mom, Ellen DeGeneres,
Absolutely.
my dad, my grandparents.
It's so nice to hear all these family ones that are coming up. I aspire to be like my mother. She's amazing.
Someone says, yes, one of my 95-year-old residents. Bruce,
Beautiful.
lots of examples here.
So we each have someone out there that's an icon to us. There's a picture on the internet of Lauren Bacall, and she was in her 80s and no makeup whatsoever. And she's posed so proudly. And that picture resonates with me so much because I have never seen her more beautiful, more proud, more empowered than in that picture. And I keep a copy of it on my phone just for those days when I'm like, oh, look at me. You know what? No, I go back, I look at that picture just to remind me age is gorgeous. Age is capable. Age is anything that we want it to be. And it was so fun finding all these fabulous people out there. Batty Van Winkle just cracks me up. But the fact that she's got 3.7 million followers and is a major social influencer. And if you read her story, becoming this icon has really improved her quality of life and decreased depression. Anything is possible. Old people are amazingly cool. We just have to believe in ourselves, get out there and take good care of ourselves, network, and show the world what we have at all our ages. So here's my contact information, and I would like to open it up for any questions that we still have. I know we've got about a little less than 10 minutes, but anything that you all want to talk about that I can answer at this point.
So here's an interesting one, Gwyneth. It doesn't seem that older people or it seems like older people are only viewed as successfully aging when they are still active or do not look or act their age. Do you have any comments on that?
You know, successful aging is what we make it. So someone who is living their best life, if that is slowing down and being more contemplative or whatever that image is, then that's a great aspect of aging. My emphasis on the engagement piece is simply to the point of maintaining health. Being engaged and active to prevent disease, I think, is important. But we can't look down on anybody for their choices around aging. It may not make us live quite as long, but those are our choices. And the dignity of choice, as I discussed in the beginning, is critical for all adults.
Thank you, Gwyneth. That was a great response. And we have another one here from Nancy, and she was wondering, you had said the name of a social media influencer. Who is that?
Let me go back just a little bit. So Batty Van Winkle is the lady there at the top in the rainbow outfit. Megan, I'll send you a link to some of her stuff after this if you want to share it with the group. But her story is very interesting. I think it's her granddaughter that got her involved in social media and doing all this stuff. And it really turned her life around after finding herself alone. And she's just become a sensation, and she's hilarious too.
Thanks, Gwyneth. Gwyneth, so I have one for you. You know, you and I met at a conference, and actually what we were talking about when we first met had to do with hula hooping. And I was wondering if maybe you could talk a little bit about your hula hooping adventures before we close out today.
Absolutely. So after the first hip replacement, jogging and things like that were kind of off the table. And I was looking for some physical activity because walking with the cane, I had gained quite a bit of weight, and I really was interested in being as successful as possible with this hip replacement. I found a free hoop jam on the internet that was happening here in town, and I just went. I just signed up and went. And, everybody was 20 years younger than me. But I had a great time. And so I started taking hula hooping classes, which, believe it or not, there are out there. I started making my own hula hoops. And then I started teaching, usually 40-plussers, but I'll do a free hoop jam in the park for anybody that wants to show up. Hula hooping can be no impact except for the hoop, hitting you. It increases abdominal strength, it's cardiovascular, and it makes you laugh, which always increases your wellness. And it's something that I worked on here in Georgia. We had hula hoop classes in about 25 senior centers when I was still working with the state. It's something you can make as a craft project, and you do it to your favorite music. So it's a very personalized practice. And 10 minutes a day will change your body. And doing an hour can burn anywhere from 400 to 600 calories. And it's a great way to burn that many calories and laugh at yourself too. So it's a great adventure. I guarantee you there is hula hooping available to you wherever you are in this country. It's a huge community, and I highly recommend it for everyone.
Thank you so much, Gwenyth. And I don't think I've ever seen our webinar chat box this active. So everything you shared today has really resonated. I did put your LinkedIn information in the chat box. And of course, you put up your email address. So please feel free to reach out to Gwenyth if you have any questions. Gwenyth, I just have a couple of final slides I'm going to share here. If I could just get back the screen share ability.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, and I'll put up contact information for Gwenyth here as well. I also put information for Charles if you'd like to talk more about Activity Strong. And, Gwenyth was kind enough to work with us on this co-branded tip sheet. So I put a link to the tip sheet in the chat box. You can download that, get some tips to walk away with from this amazing presentation today. So we hope we'll use that as a resource and share that with your teams in the weeks ahead. We're also really excited to share in our private Facebook group for Activity Strong. We're going to have a Sparkle hosted by Brian Reif next week on April 27th. So you just tune in live there for an hour-long discussion with special guest Joanne Keldy. And as always, we have a webinar coming up in 2 weeks. So this will be on May 9th. We have Amanda from Positive Approach to Care. So she will be talking about dementia-friendly interactions to improve resident engagement. So be sure to sign up for that. And we are excited to announce for the 4th annual Activity Strong Virtual Summit, we will be celebrating with a Palooza on June 27th. We'll have 6 sessions. That means up to 6 free continuing education credits that you can earn that day. And thank you again to our Activity Strong partners who are listed on the bottom of the slide there. We've also partnered with the Ohio Person-Centered Care Coalition for a webinar on April 27th. So that will be 1 free CEU for those who attend the live event, and that will be featuring Penny Cook. So we're very much looking forward to that event. And it is almost Older Americans Month. So this is a really fitting announcement that connects to today's topic. We're celebrating with an Old People Are Cool relay in Washington, D.C., and I will be sharing a link to a tip sheet so that you can start your own relay in your respective city. And we want to point out that our friends at Augusta Woods in Texas actually have designated May 27th as Old People Are Cool Day. So they have a lot of celebrations planned for that day. And so we'll look forward to supporting them and sharing more about that on social media. And last but not least, for Link Senior clients, we are holding a private Link Senior Customer Summit, and that will be at the end of May next month. So with that, I will go ahead and put the information for CEUs in the chat box now and email that out this afternoon. And Gwenyth, thank you so much for your time today and for your insights. And we look forward to having you back as a featured speaker in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much.